The storm had begun earlier than forecast. Thicker, heavier, angrier. Elias Navarro pushed open the maintenance door with his shoulder, the metal creaking under the pressure of the wind. His boots sank slightly into the wet ground outside the building, mud collecting around the edges. He exhaled through his nose, steady but tired. It was supposed to be an easy shift. Just a panel check, nothing else. But nothing at this park had been easy lately. He pulled his hood tighter and started walking along the dimly lit service path, his flashlight casting long, trembling shadows on the ground. The light wasn't defective. The entire island felt like it was breathing on edge. Elias was a technician, not one of the scientists who talked confidently about DNA strands and miracles. He didn't belong to the guards who walked around with tranquilizer rifles and false bravado. He was just a guy who wanted to send money back to his mother in Costa Rica, pay off some debts, and if he was lucky, figure out what to do with his life. Working here wasn't a dream, it was a paycheck. A dangerous one, but the best he could get without a degree. He swallowed. He was supposed to check on a malfunction in holding Pen 3, but the entire route felt wrong. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that seemed to hold its breath, waiting. Another gust of wind. Another distant rumble. No, not thunder. Something else. He slowed down, listening. A rhythmic tremor? Footsteps? No, too light for that. Too controlled. He tried to ignore it and kept walking, forcing his mind to stay logical. Animals move at night. Storms distort sound. Don't freak out, he muttered to himself, repeating the advice of an older tech who had worked here during construction. Back then, Elias had laughed at the man's paranoia. Now, it didn't seem so funny. He finally reached the maintenance door to Pen 3 and swiped his badge. The green light blinked once, then held solid. Inside, the fluorescent bulbs flickered slowly as they hummed to life. The room felt colder than outside. Metal tables, wiring tools, monitors showing basic diagnostics. Everything looked normal, but the quiet was unnatural. Elias set his toolbox down and wiped rain from his forehead. He walked toward the malfunctioning control panel on the back wall, noticing a faint burnt smell coming from the circuitry. Great, he sighed. Probably another power fluctuation. He pulled out the diagnostic tablet, but before he could start, his radio hissed violently in his ear.
Elias Navarro, do you copy?
The voice was swallowed by static. He pressed the button.
This is Elias Navarro. I'm inside holding Pen 3. Repeat, I'm inside Pen 3. What's happening? Over.
Static, then a broken message.
A lure in the main grid. Backup offline. Remain indoors. Do not.
The message cut abruptly. Silence. Elias stood frozen. Backup offline? That meant the fences. He dashed to the wall monitor and began tapping at the interface, but the display blinked red and then shut itself off. The island's power network had entered emergency mode. His heart jerked painfully in his chest. Oh no, 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 no. He stepped back, breathing harder now. His hands trembled. Anger, fear, and confusion all twisting together inside him. This wasn't supposed to happen. This wasn't his job. He wasn't trained for emergencies. He fixed doors. He rewired panels. He didn't deal with island-wide power failures and escaped predators. His throat tightened. He thought of his mother back home, her warm smile, her voice telling him to stop taking dangerous jobs. He thought of the last message she sent. Be careful, hijo. I worry every night. This would destroy her. He shut his eyes, exhaling deeply, trying to push down the rising panic. He wasn't brave. He wasn't fearless. But he wasn't a coward either. He opened his eyes and reached for the radio again. Before he could speak, he heard something outside. Metal, scraping, slowly, deliberately. He turned toward the narrow service window. Rain hit the glass in harsh, irregular drops. Lightning flashed. For a split second, he saw a silhouette, low, agile, moving with unnerving precision behind the fence. A shape that wasn't human. His breath stopped. Another flash. Gone. But he knew what he saw. He had fixed the feeding gates for the raptor paddock enough times to recognize their movement, the way they stalked, measured, silent. This wasn't normal. This wasn't contained. He stumbled back from the window, gripping the edge of the table. The lights flickered again, once, twice, then died completely. The entire room fell into darkness. Elias heard his heartbeat pounding inside his skull. He felt sweat collecting at his neck despite the cold. He reached slowly for his flashlight, clicked it on. A faint beam cut through the darkness, shaking slightly in his trembling hand. He wasn't alone on the island anymore, not in any way that mattered. Something outside growled, not loud, just enough for the vibrations to crawl up his spine. He whispered to himself, "Stay calm, think, survive." And then the emergency alarm began to wail. The emergency alarm drowned out the sound of the storm. Its sharp, pulsing rhythm filled the maintenance room like a heartbeat. Fast, anxious, mechanical. Elias froze, the beam of his flashlight trembling across the metal walls. For a moment, he just stood there, listening. Alarm, rain, wind, a distant screech? Or maybe the metal straining against the storm. Then, a heavy thud outside. Elias flinched at the sound. It wasn't thunder this time. Thunder didn't sound rhythmic. Thunder didn't sound intentional. He swallowed, forcing air back into his lungs. "You're okay. Just think. Think." But thinking was getting harder with the alarms blaring and the lights dead and the storm shaking the entire building. He had 3 options. Stay inside and hope someone would find him. Go outside and try to reach the main bunker. Or climb through the maintenance tunnels beneath the facility. None were safe. Some weren't even rational. He pressed the radio again. "This is Elias Navarro calling base command. Is anyone receiving? Over." Static. He tried again. "Anyone, please." Still nothing. His fear was no longer sharp. It had turned heavy, like a weight pressing down on his chest. A quiet fear, the kind that settles deep inside when you know something is terribly wrong. He grabbed his backpack. Inside, a half-empty water bottle, 2 protein bars, a multi-tool, a small first aid kit, his badge, a photo of his mother. Not ideal, but enough to keep him alive for a few hours, if the dinosaurs didn't find him first. He opened the maintenance door. Rain and wind slammed into his face like a wall. The sky was black except for brief flashes of lightning that illuminated the jungle in pale white. He turned left, following the narrow path that led to the emergency bunker. Branches whipped against his clothes, the mud pulling at his boots. Then he heard it, a low, guttural clicking sound. He stopped. Lightning flashed, and his blood froze. Something moved between the trees, low to the ground, fast, silent. A shape he recognized immediately, a raptor. Elias staggered backward, nearly falling. Panic surged through him, a wild, desperate instinct to run, even though running was the one thing you should never do. He backed away slowly, keeping his eyes locked on the shadows. His heart was hammering. Thunder cracked. The creature stepped partially into view. Sleek, reptilian, eyes reflecting the lightning. Elias sucked in a breath. But then, a second sound. A heavy mechanical groan from somewhere deeper in the jungle. Metal bending, something collapsing. The raptor snapped its head toward the sound, alert, curious. Then, with incredible speed, it disappeared back into the foliage. Elias didn't waste a second. He turned and sprinted down the path, lungs burning, legs shaking. Mud splashed up his pants. Branches slashed at his arms. The emergency bunker was close. He could see the faint shape of the metal structure between the trees. Then, a deafening explosion echoed behind him. The ground trembled. Birds burst from the trees in a frenzy. Elias stopped, chest heaving, and looked back. A massive section of the fence, one of the island's primary security systems, had collapsed. Sparks scattered into the rain like fireflies being drowned. And through the tear in the metal, something enormous moved. Too large to be a raptor. Too heavy. Too slow. Lightning lit up the silhouette. A long neck, a massive body, a tail thick as a tree trunk, a brachiosaurus. Elias exhaled shakily. Not a predator, but its escape meant something worse. Many fences were failing. Multiple enclosures were opening at once. This wasn't a simple outage. It was a total systems collapse, and he was on his own. He reached the bunker door and slammed his ID card against the reader. Red light. Beep. Access denied. What? No, come on. He tried again. Red. Denied. The bunker had locked itself automatically when the system entered full containment breach mode. Only high-level staff could get in now. Damn it. He hit the door once, then twice, frustration boiling over. Rage mixed with fear. He felt small, useless, discarded by a system that had never cared about him. He forced himself to breathe. He wasn't dying here. He turned toward the jungle path again, the storm soaking through his clothes. A new alarm echoed in the distance, deeper, louder, meant for a different area. And when it sounded, Elias felt chills crawl across his entire body. He knew that alarm. Everyone on the island did. It meant only one thing: predator containment failure. He whispered to himself, "They're loose." The wind howled. Something roared. Not close. Not yet. But close enough. He wiped his face, steadied his breathing, and made a decision. He would head to the operations building, the central control for all systems. If anyone survived, they'd be there. If not, it was his only chance to restore power and call for evacuation. He gripped his flashlight and started walking. Every noise felt amplified. Every shadow felt alive. But he kept moving, because surviving wasn't just instinct now. It was a promise. "I'm getting off this island," he whispered. "For you, Mama, I swear." And somewhere behind him, hidden in the darkness, two bright, reflective eyes opened, watching, studying, following. The hunt had begun.